Hello and welcome to Webex Teams. This video is going to take you through an orientation of the Webex Teams interface. The first thing is Teams is really your one-stop shop for a lot of your collaboration needs. You're going to be able to send messages, files, links. You'll be able to hold any ad hoc calls or meetings or even schedule them with advance notice as well. So let's go ahead and just first start off with taking a look at the overall user interface. Over here, you're going to find right on the left side, as you can see my cursor floating around, these are the different items in your navigational bar. You've got your spaces, which we'll be spending a lot of time in. You've got team spaces, which is a different way of organizing your conversation flows. And then you also have calling. Calling is going to show you any calls that were made or calls that were missed. Typically, calling is going to be computer to computer. And then if your calendar is integrated with your Outlook Exchange, you'll also find your meetings are going to show up here. But let's go ahead and go back up to Spaces. At the very bottom down here, you'll find a Help button, and there's some nice little tours and walkthroughs that you can do. Very top left, there's your avatar. This is where you can go ahead and put in a picture of yourself so everyone knows who you are and what you look like. Now, this area is where all of that magic happens. These are all of my spaces. There's a couple of spaces that are in here. There are spaces where I only send messages back and forth with one other person. Not just messages, but maybe we share files, maybe we share links, maybe we have ad hoc calls, or maybe I want to schedule something with Bonnie at a later time. The other part is my spaces, like Community Playground. In fact, that's where I am right now. Anytime you click on one of the spaces, it's going to bring you to all of the information within that space, all of the messages, all of the files that are being shared. The Community Playground is a space that I am a part of with many other people. Over here, you're going to find what we call the conversation area. At the very top, there's a number of different tabs. Messages is going to show us collectively all of the messages, all of the files, all of the links that are being shared. At the very bottom of your messaging area, you'll find where you'll be able to send those messages. You'll be able to write out messages here. You'll be able to attach files and have them show up in the space, take screenshots, format your messages with different text. You can also use emojis, so you'll have all of your emojis here. There are GIFs that you can also send. Sometimes we like to communicate through GIFs, and you'll see I sent one here a little bit earlier. An app mention, we'll talk about this a little bit later when we talk about messaging more, but if you do have a message that is targeted to a certain individual in a space of many people, that's a way to have it stand out. And then if you are using Webex meetings and using your personal room, this is where you can share your personal meeting room join details. And that again is everything that you find up in this area in your messaging tab. Now let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to find in the People tab. The People tab is going to show you all of the people that are a part of this space. So if I were to write something in the messages area, these are all of the people that are going to see it. 177 of them. The orange font indicates that there are external people as a part of this space. So once I start collaborating this space, then I know I shouldn't put anything company confidential, anything that I wouldn't want external space members to see. So you're always aware with the orange font when someone is in the space and they are external to your organization. So now that we've taken a look at the People tab, let's take a look at the Content tab. The Content tab is going to show you all of the files that have been shared in this space. So there's files, there's whiteboards that have been shared, and there's also links that have been shared. So one of the things that you could do is you could click on messages and you could scroll up to the beginning of time to look for a link or look for a certain file, or maybe you're looking for a certain whiteboard. Or you can come to the Content tab where it isolates all of those things for you. And it's going to show you the most recent ones towards the top. Let's take a look at the next tab we have, and that tab is going to be your schedule tab. The schedule tab is where you are going to be able to move it over here. You're going to be able to schedule an upcoming meeting. Now, right up here, you're going to see a little green button. That's how you're going to do something more ad hoc, unplanned. I want to call everybody that's in this space right now. But if you want to go ahead and plan something with advance notice, this is where you can open up a calendar invitation, invite everyone to the meeting, and put in a specific date and time. We will take a look at that in a different recording. Now, if you don't have an integration into Outlook and maybe you want to copy the space details like the join information or all of the attendee information, all of that's found here. And it gives you easy to access copy options here, so you can copy that all into your communication that you're using. Let's take a look all the way over here on the right side. You're going to see me circling around another button, and this is Threads. So what you're going to find when you are in the messaging area, if you do want to go ahead and reply to a certain message, you can hover it over it here, and you can reply to that message. The thread button is going to help you sort of isolate those replies. You can also search within a space as well. So just to kind of recap, messages, where we're going to see everything happening in the space. People, these are the people that have access to everything we're sharing in the space. We also have the ability of adding more people at any time, and they'll see all of the space history. There's content, which is going to show us files that have been shared, whiteboards that have been shared, and also links that have been shared. And then finally, there's your schedule. So when you want to take it to another level and you would like to actually schedule a meeting with people and talk real time, this is where you can do it ahead of time. All the way over on the right side of the screen, this is my Meet button where I want to do it ad hoc. Don't need to schedule anything. That's Meet now. We've got our threads, and we've got searching within the space. So that is going to be your very quick orientation to the overall user interface. Now that we've taken a look at the overview of just the user interface, let's talk a little bit more about some of the things that we're seeing here. So one of the things you're going to notice is my spaces, some of them are bold font. So these are indicating spaces where I haven't actually viewed the message in there. You'll also notice over here there are some different icons. Some of these spaces have some pretty frequent activity. So what I've chosen to do is I've chosen to go ahead and mute my notifications for this particular space. So that way I'm not getting any on-screen type of notifications. Whenever you see an icon that looks like this or this, that means that's a brand new space that someone's added me to. Now, how do you create your own spaces? The way that you're going to create your own spaces, whether they be direct messaging where you message with just one person, or if they're going to be spaces where you're messaging with multiple people, the way to get started is to click on the plus button. So this plus button right up here that you see me circling, this is where you're going to go ahead and create a space. It's where you go and create a space with just one person. If you have Active Directory tied in, it'll do predictive search. If you find that it's not pulling up the person's name that you'd like to add, all you need is their email address. The other type of space that you can create is a space. This is where you're going to name the space, like we have the community playground, and it's also where you're going to go ahead and you're going to add more people to that space. So again, putting in their name, and if their name doesn't pop up, all you need is their email address. So get some spaces created, and you'll also find you're getting invited to collaborate in other spaces as well. Now that we've had a bit of an introduction to some of the things that we see here, I want you to think about some projects that you might work on. Some projects might be manageable in a space, like the community playground. There's one topic, there's one conversation, and it's all around the community playground. Well, there's other projects and other conversations that we might be a part of that might need to get better organized. And that's where a team space might come into play. So a team space is like your regular spaces, but it's a way of organizing the information. So instead of creating one space called Webex deployment, and that's where we put all of our conversation about the Webex deployment, we've created a team space called Webex deployment. But within this team space, we've added individual conversation spaces. When it comes to, say, a Webex deployment, there's a lot going on. So we might have a team dealing with communications. This is where they can go and put all of their information. We might have people on our project team that's really just dealing with the deployment on the desktops and all of the imaging. And this is where they can put their information. And perhaps I've got a separate group that's responsible for creating training material or delivering training classes, maybe videos. This is where the training team can put all of their information. For every team space that you belong to, you're also going to find there's a general space. The general space we can all view, but when it comes to being a part of a team space, we kind of get to pick and choose which conversations we want to follow. Now, I'm the one that actually created this team space, so I can follow all of these conversations. But if I'm invited to be a part of somebody else's team space, like this one, I actually get to pick the conversations I want to monitor and I want to be a part of. So, for example, I want to see what's going on with swag for our collaboration convention. I want to make sure I'm aware of the venue information that's going around, but catering and get-togethers, that's not my team. So I don't need to join this space and monitor that conversation. Now, team spaces are created and organized here, but the conversations are also going to be visible here in your main messaging area as well. Then when it comes to calling, a little bit more on calling. For external dialing, I'm not too sure if everyone has the external dialing. Typically, it's computer to computer. We can generally figure out if we have it, if we actually dial a number and it makes an outbound call. This is showing me all of the meetings or the calls that I've been on. So you'll see some I've missed, some I was actually there. And that's everything with calling. For calling, you're going to do this computer to computer. And then finally, of course, I do have my calendar. I do have my Outlook Exchange integrated with Teams. That's done on the back end by our IT team. So this is where I'm able to see any of my upcoming meetings that are coming up on my calendar. But really, for me, I spend most of my time in this area here, working in spaces, communicating. It's almost a replacement for email. I'm able to come in here, create conversations, monitor conversations, have calls, have meetings without ever having to leave my Teams application. So now that you're using Teams, it's time to create some spaces and start practicing. I always recommend creating direct messaging spaces with individuals you work with the most. And then create some spaces with multiple individuals you work with the most. Maybe your team members or your admin if you work with an admin. And that's it. Enjoy using your Webex team service.